You know what is happening, though? Pitt is playing at 8 o'clock Saturday night in front of what I think will be about 35,000. It's one of those nice little on-campus type of joints at Southern Methodist. Pitt is playing what I would call the most consequential game they have played in decades. They are playing their biggest game since probably the early 80s. 17th ranked Pitt, 20th ranked SMU. Pitt is 7-0. If Pitt wins, suddenly the path to the previously inconceivable starts to look more and more plausible. Not only that, 8 hours earlier, you will have Penn State playing the old boogeyman yet again, Donnie's guys, the boys from Columbus, the fighting Johnny the Barbers. Penn State, Ohio State, 3 hosting 4, even though 4 is a 3.5-point favorite. Penn State, yes. Pat McAfee, a home dog in this game. You'll have Penn State trying to land a kill shot to Ohio State in this matchup. Ohio State loses again. They're pretty much on life support, even though it'd be 2 high-quality losses. That would be just about all for them. Penn State wins, you can pretty much pencil them, put them in an ink into the college football playoff. Not only that, they would have done so while vanquishing the team that has often stood in front of them and in their way to get to the old 4-team college football playoff. So if part of this job and part of what we do is to take the temperature of what is actually happening, what is actually relevant to people, what is probably on people's minds in one form or fashion, I would be doing a disservice to what we do for a living to start at least by talking about a team that won't be playing a game again until next Sunday. Not even this one. You'll be knee-deep into regular time where it's getting dark at 5 o'clock the next time the Steelers play. This is, I would argue without exaggeration, one of the biggest college football Saturdays for fans generally in this region that I can remember. You could talk about Pitt playing West Virginia as a big day in the college football landscape when it was 13-9 and West Virginia basically had everything in front of them. Had a trip to the national title game on the line and so forth. But this is 2 teams, one of whom we expected to be in this position. The other, I think even the most ardent Pitt believers did not think would be here. Both gunning to stay unbeaten. In Penn State's case, to make it almost assured that they get to the playoff. And in Pitt's case, to dramatically uptick their chances. And I am curious, not if you're interested, because I don't like to ask the "are you interested" question, but to what degree, does this move the needle for you? Does it have that big game feel to it, that big day feel? When the Steelers would play the Ravens back in the day, I used to just come on the air and talk about Ravens week, baby, and we'd go on and on and on about how much you hated Baltimore, you hated John Harbaugh, and you know everything about that team bothered the heck out of you, whatever. I'm wondering if people understand that this is a huge deal right now. I'm wondering if it's sunk in to this degree. Pitt wins this game, it would be, I think, by most measures, their best win of the year. Taking down a team that's ranked in the top 20, that's favored over them in this game. Suddenly you're 8-0. You would have to, I think, jump several more spots in the polls. You become a top 15 team if you win this game. You probably sneak up closer to the top 10. And then you start dreaming big, I think, if you're a Pitt fan. Then you start thinking, you don't say college football playoff and whisper it in hushed tones. You start saying we're going to handle Virginia. That's at home. They're not that good. We're going to be 9-0. Now it's Clemson, and guess what? Everything's on the table. Battle of 2 teams that'll probably be ranked in similar spots if Pitt rolls in there undefeated and Clemson holds serve till then. And then you go Louisville, Boston College. Louisville's tough. Boston College should not be that tough. But you'd have proof of concept that wow, this team is actually handling their business right now. I can start to believe that something crazy might be about to happen. I'm wondering if that's really registering for Pitt fans yet. I'm wondering if you're a Pitt fan like I've been pretty much my whole adult life and then several years way back. Mid-90s. Let's say 12-year-old Mulsey, 13-year-old Mulsey started getting into the Pistol Pete Gonzalez team in 97 and never looked back through all the ups and downs, mostly downs. I'm wondering if it's registering yet for Pitt fans, if you're allowing yourself to enjoy this and to expect big things here. They go in as an underdog. SMU's quarterback I thought was going to be hurt for this game because I saw a tweet while they were playing last week that he had gone down with what looked like a potentially gruesome knee injury. And then as it happened, his knee apparently held up and he came back into that game. SMU's going to have as close to their full complement as they can get. But, we're at the point now where I think I, at least personally, am looking at Pitt and saying it's okay to think big. It's kind of the way I feel about the Steelers. It's okay to think big for once. Yes, there's 5 more games. They've only played 7. Long road to hoe, I get it. But I am prepared to actually talk about this team as if I expect good things to happen to them. Syracuse was supposed to come in and be a problem, right? Kyle McCord then played the worst game I have ever seen a quarterback play in a big national spotlight type of situation. He pulled a full Peterman. 5 picks. 3 of them going back the other way for touchdowns. Pitt passed a test, and their offense barely did anything, and their offense has been their calling card for most of this year. It is a huge Saturday in college football in this town, regardless of which of the 2 major teams that call this area home for much of their alumni base you root for. It is a massive day. I know Penn State fans have belief because their team's always around this spot in the polls. I wonder if Pitt fans do. 412-928-9370. That's the Edgar Snyder and Associates fan text line. I wonder if Pitt fans have belief. If you're a Pitt fan that is a long-suffering Pitt fan, I want to know if you are actually starting to think maybe we can have nice things. Because when they lost to Western Michigan in the Kenny year, there were big games down the stretch. There was a big showdown with Clemson. But you already knew they had that loss on their ledger. They're unblemished right now. You win out, you're in big. You're in easy. You go 12-0, you're getting there. You lose the ACC title game, I think you're still getting there pretty comfortably. Just wondering if Pitt fans are allowing themselves to enjoy it right now. To believe that something like this can actually happen. Donnie, I'm wondering too with you, because we'll get to the phones here coming up next. I'm wondering if I threw you a curveball. I didn't tell you until the show started, basically, what I was about to do. I'm wondering if you have appreciated the gravity of this moment. You technically are rooting for Ohio State tomorrow or on Saturday. You've been a Buckeyes fan. You're like a little Johnny the Barber acolyte here. But this is we haven't had a day like this where the 2 main teams in this area are undefeated this late in the season in a very, very long time. And it just hit me before the show. I'm like, yeah, I want to talk Steelers. There's Steelers stuff to get into today for sure. But holy crap, this is actually happening. Usually by this point on the calendar, I am semi-tuned out of college football because I kind of know where Penn State is. And Pitt usually has a loss or 2. Let's just be honest. They might be 5-2, but they're not playing for anything. They'd have to go to the ACC title game and win it. And usually at that point, it would feel like a major upset.
Yeah, now usually, like you said, Penn State is commonly in a spot similar to this. Maybe they already have a loss on their schedule. I don't know, maybe they played Michigan or they got tripped up by somebody else. It's more often than not when they play Ohio State, it is a big game. It's a big deal. So that's not a ton different, at least I don't think for Penn State fans in the area. And for any Ohio State fans in the area, they know that their team is in this spot pretty much every single year. Where they either have 0 or 1 losses and they're trying to get their way to the college football playoff. For Pitt, a much different story. Now, a couple of years ago, the Kenny Pickett year, which you referenced, that was a lot of fun, but Pitt already had 1 loss. They'd eventually have a second loss that would kind of spoil the season a bit, even though they won the ACC. This is really the first moment, though, because you've seen and heard people who have doubted Pitt, and it's kind of funny since both of the football teams that we talk about the most, the Steelers and the Pitt Panthers, they're basically in similar spots where they've had really good starts and nobody wants to believe that they are any good. And we've just been waiting and waiting and waiting. Well, when's Pitt going to play a real team? This is the time where if Pitt goes in, if they go into SMU and they win that game, people that have doubted, people that have hated, whatever category you want to put that in, they have to accept, okay, maybe Pitt's the real deal. And if they win this game, I said this last week with Joe, if Pitt wins tomorrow, my confidence is going through the roof on them taking care of business the rest of the way. I think this is their toughest game left. I think they will beat Clemson in a couple of weeks.
I'm not sure I'm ready to say that just because Clemson's won 6 in a row, and the only team to beat them is a juggernaut Georgia team. But there's 3 teams right now with a better ACC record than Pitt because they've played more games. One's Clemson, one's Miami, and one's the team they're going to see, SMU. You pick them off, guess what? Now you only got 2 ahead of you. You pick off the other one that's ahead of you, and you handle your business. Always a kind of a bugaboo with Pitt. You handle your other business, you will find yourself in truly uncharted territory. And I'm wondering if Pitt fans are allowing themselves to believe that this might actually go their way.